Decoded.
Welcome back to Book Decoded, where we crack open insightful books and, we really try to extract those golden nuggets of knowledge. Today we're diving into This is Strategy by the marketing guru Seth Godin. Now he's known for his unconventional wisdom.
Yeah.
And this book is no exception.
It's true.
So prepare for some, thought-provoking ideas
Absolutely.
about how seemingly small actions can create really big, lasting change.
It's fascinating, how Godin approaches strategy.
Yeah.
He goes beyond just setting goals.
Right.
And he really emphasizes understanding the systems that we operate within.
Okay.
He argues that these systems, with their intricate webs of relationships and feedback loops, that's where the real magic happens.
Okay, let's unpack that a little bit.
Sure.
What exactly does he mean by systems?
Yeah, so he uses a really intriguing example.
Okay.
A Santa Claus parade in the 1920s.
Oh, wow.
Back then, cars were still relatively new.
Right.
And pedestrians, they pretty much ruled the streets. This department store in Detroit decided to have this, huge Santa Claus parade.
Okay.
With Santa arriving in a car.
I see where this is going.
Right.
A parade in strategy.
Yeah. It's all about that ripple effect.
Okay.
The parade was a massive success.
Okay.
And suddenly, cars were associated with joy and the magic of Christmas.
Interesting.
This shift in perception, however subtle it might seem, it really contributed to the normalization of cars.
Yeah.
It encouraged people to see them not as a threat, but as a symbol of progress, of happiness even.
So a seemingly unrelated event like a parade
Right.
actually influenced the entire system of transportation.
Precisely. And that's what Godin wants us to see.
Okay.
Systems have these nodes, like
Yeah.
buildings or people,
Right.
and connections, like roads or rules.
Yeah.
It's harder to reroute a road than replace a building, right?
Oh, yeah.
So systems are designed to resist change.
Right.
But understanding that resistance is key to creating lasting impact.
That reminds me of Duncan Hines, the restaurant guide guy.
Oh, yeah.
He basically changed the entire restaurant system, right?
It's a classic example.
Yeah.
Back then, there were no restaurant health inspectors.
Oh, right.
Eating out, especially while traveling, it was a gamble.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Hines was a traveling salesman who loved good food,
Yeah.
and he began publishing a guide recommending places he knew were safe and tasty.
So he didn't try to overhaul the entire system.
Right.
He just added this layer of information.
Exactly.
How did that create change?
By publishing his list, he created a hierarchy within the system.
Okay.
Diners suddenly had a way to choose.
Yeah.
And restaurants were incentivized to improve their standards to get that coveted recommendation.
So he worked within the existing framework to create a whole new dynamic.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how, small actions can shift entire systems.
Right. It's amazing.
It makes me think about that study from Amsterdam that Godin mentions.
Yeah.
The one about electric meters, right? Researchers found that people with electric meters visible in their hallways, they used less electricity than those with meters hidden away in basements.
Really?
Just simply seeing the meter and having that constant feedback
Yeah.
influenced their behavior.
Wow. It's like a built-in feedback loop
Right.
that encourages you to be more mindful of your energy consumption.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even subtle changes to information visibility can impact behavior within a system.
That's so interesting.
And that's an important takeaway for you as you think about your own strategies.
It really is.
Yeah.
Speaking of systems, there are companies like Tony's Chocolonely and Original Beans
Right.
that are trying to change the often, unethical chocolate industry.
Right.
They aren't trying to take down Halloween or something.
Right.
They're working within the system, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
They offer a new story, a new choice within the existing system. You can have delicious chocolate, they're saying,
Right.
and feel good about where it came from.
They're not fighting against the system.
Yeah.
They're offering an alternative within it.
So it's not about top-down control or drastic overhauls.
Right.
It's more about understanding the system's dynamics.
Yes.
And finding those leverage points to kind of nudge it in a new direction.
I love that.
Almost like a gentle but persistent pressure.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Yeah.
Godin emphasizes that real lasting change often comes from what he calls horizontal influence.
Okay.
People influencing each other.
Right.
It's not about waiting for someone at the top to dictate change,
Yeah.
but about creating that groundswell of support and new behaviors that ultimately shift the entire system.
That's a really powerful idea.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of leads us to another fascinating concept that, Godin explores in This is Strategy.
Okay.
The idea of understanding the games we play within these systems.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What does he mean by games?
He's not talking about board games or, video games.
Right.
He's talking about these strategic interactions that shape our work and lives.
Okay.
Every system has its own set of games
Yeah.
with players and rules, scarcity, choices, feedback loops, and outcomes.
So it's like seeing our everyday actions through a strategic lens.
Yeah.
How does that help us make better decisions?
It allows for more flexibility and strategic thinking.
Okay.
Once you recognize that you're playing a game,
Yeah.
you can start to understand the rules,
Right.
anticipate the moves of other players, and make choices that lead to the outcomes you desire.
I can see how that would be a powerful shift in perspective.
Absolutely.
But aren't games often about competition? How does that fit in with this idea of horizontal influence and working within systems?
That's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Godin points out how counterintuitive games can be. Sometimes short-term gains lead to long-term losses.
Right.
Sometimes helping others succeed is actually the best way to win.
So it's not always a zero-sum game. Sometimes collaboration can actually expand the pie for everyone involved.
Exactly. And one of the most critical factors in any game, in any strategy, is time.
Okay.
Godin uses this wonderful phrase,
Okay.
nostalgia for the future.
Nostalgia for the future. That sounds almost paradoxical.
Yeah.
What does he mean by that?
It's this idea that we're not just reacting to the past.
Okay.
We're actively creating our future with the choices we make today.
I see.
It's about having that confidence to invest in a future we believe in, a future that's worth striving for.
So it's about aligning our actions with the future we want to inhabit.
Yes.
Not just the present we find ourselves in.
Exactly.
It reminds me of that story Godin tells about Justin Kobilka,
Oh, yeah.
the ball python breeder.
Yes.
A fantastic example
Right.
of playing the long game
Yeah.
and understanding the forces at play within a system.
Yeah.
Before the internet, breeding ball pythons, that was a niche hobby.
Right.
Kobilka saw the potential for online communities and marketplaces.
Yeah. To transform the entire system.
So he was thinking ahead,
Yes.
anticipating how technology would change the game.
Exactly. He started breeding these rare, beautiful pythons,
Okay.
and he made a strategic decision.
Uh-huh.
Instead of, cashing out early.
Right.
He kept reinvesting in his breeding program,
Okay.
building his reputation as the go-to expert.
He had that nostalgia for the future,
Yeah.
that vision of what the market could become.
And when the online market exploded,
Yeah.
he was perfectly positioned to become the leader, the trusted source for collectors around the world.
Wow.
It was a long-term strategy that paid off handsomely.
It's inspiring to see how someone can, create their own success by understanding a system, anticipating change, and making those strategic choices.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And speaking of strategic choices,
Oh.
Godin shares another compelling story.
Yeah?
Elizabeth Dole's approach to mandatory seatbelts.
Oh, yes, that was a masterclass in aligning seemingly opposing forces within a system
Yes.
to create lasting change.
Right.
At the time, car companies were fiercely resisting mandatory seatbelt laws,
Mm-hmm.
and insurance companies were pushing hard for passive restraints, like airbags.
Yes, it was a stalemate.
Yeah.
And then Elizabeth Dole,
Right.
the Secretary of Transportation,
Yeah.
stepped in and made this brilliant strategic move.
Okay.
She essentially said,
Yeah.
unless more than half the states pass mandatory seatbelt laws,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to force car companies to install airbags in every car.
That was a game changer.
Right.
Suddenly, car companies had a huge incentive to lobby for seatbelt laws
Yeah.
alongside the insurance company.
Exactly. She created the conditions for these seemingly opposed forces to align,
What's brilliant?
to work together to shift the system in a positive direction.
Oh,
And it saved countless lives.
that's amazing.
It really underscores the power of understanding the dynamics of a system
Yeah.
and finding those leverage points to create change.
It's a reminder that we don't always have to fight against the current.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we can use the current to our advantage
Yeah,
to steer the system towards a better outcome.
absolutely.
So we've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
from Santa Claus parades to ball python breeding,
Mhm.
from electric meters to nostalgia for the future.
It's quite a journey.
What are some of the key takeaways you hope our listeners will walk away with from This is Strategy?
Well, I think the biggest one is that, strategy is not about finding a one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay.
It's about understanding systems,
Yeah.
the players within those systems,
Okay.
and the often subtle but powerful ways we can influence them to create lasting change.
It's about seeing the world through a new lens,
Mm-hmm.
a strategic lens,
Yeah.
and recognizing that even seemingly small actions can have that ripple effect,
Absolutely.
shifting the dynamics and creating opportunities for a better future.
And it's about embracing the long game.
Yeah.
The idea that real change takes time, persistence, and a deep understanding of the forces at play.
It's about having that nostalgia for the future,
Yes.
that vision of what we want to create, and the commitment to make it happen.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And beyond, those core principles, Godin dives into all these elegant strategies, exploring, approaches like low cost, low price, high status, high price, network effects, and market disruption.
I'm really curious about that last one, market disruption.
Yeah.
He uses Tesla as an example, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Contrasting the success of the Model S with the Cybertruck.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He argues that the Model S succeeded because it created this tension, this desire to be part of something new and exciting.
Right.
But the Cybertruck, while innovative, might have missed the mark by not understanding, the pickup truck audience's desire for normalcy.
So even when you're disrupting a market, you still need to understand your target audience. What are they looking for? What problem are you solving for them?
Exactly. Yeah. And that ties back to his point about resisting the race to the bottom.
Right.
That trap of competing solely on price.
Godin urges us to find our unique value proposition.
Yes.
The thing that makes us stand out, that makes us indispensable.
He emphasizes that long-term competitive advantage comes from design, productivity, and storytelling, not just from offering the lowest price.
It's about creating value that's not easily replicated or substituted.
Yes.
It's about offering something that truly connects with your audience on a deeper level.
Absolutely. And ultimately, all of these strategies, all of these insights come back to recognizing and addressing the system's inherent resistance to change.
That's been a recurring theme throughout the book, hasn't it?
It has.
This idea that systems, with their ingrained habits and beliefs, are naturally resistant to change.
It's a fundamental principle to understand.
Yeah.
If you're trying to create lasting change, whether it's in your business or your community or the world at large, you need to acknowledge this resistance and find ways to navigate it.
It's not about brute force or top-down control.
No.
It's about understanding the dynamics of the system, finding those leverage points, and using them to nudge the system in a new direction.
Exactly. It's about working with the system, not against it.
Yeah.
It's about finding those subtle but powerful ways to influence behavior, shift perceptions, and create the conditions for lasting change to take root.
Well, I have to say, this strategy has given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
It's challenged my assumptions about how change happens and what it really means to think strategically.
I agree. It's a book that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
It really does.
Those ideas about systems and games, nostalgia for the future, they get under your skin and make you see the world differently.
And I love that he doesn't just present these abstract ideas.
Right.
He brings them to life with these compelling stories and examples that make them so relatable and memorable.
Absolutely. From Santa Claus parades to ball python breeding.
Right.
From electric meters to Elizabeth Dole's seatbelt campaign.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Each story illuminates a different facet of strategic thinking.
As we wrap up this episode of Book Decoded, I'd love to leave our listeners with one final thought from This Is Strategy.
Okay.
Godin talks about finding your minimum viable audience, that core group of passionate early adopters who will champion your ideas and help you spread your message. I think that's such a powerful concept. For anyone trying to create change, build a business, or simply make their mark on the world.
I agree. Finding your tribe, your people, those who resonate with your vision, it's essential for creating lasting impact.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to find your minimum viable audience. Build that scaffolding as support and keep playing the long game. Real change takes time, persistence, and a willingness to embrace those unexpected turns along the way.
It does.
And of course, we highly recommend checking out This is Strategy by Seth Godin for yourself.
Absolutely.
It's a book that will challenge your thinking and inspire you to approach your work and life with a fresh strategic perspective.
Until next time, keep decoding, keep questioning,
Yeah.
and keep striving to make a positive difference in the world.
Thanks for joining us on Book Decoded.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a thought-provoking book.